In 2009, an architecture student by the online handle Urbz completed an experiment in SimCity 3000 that would forever go down in history as the largest and most interesting urban sprawl ever created in the history of the game. Dubbed Magnisanti, a staggering metropolis of over 6 million population, far beyond a game save file, that's a boundary-pushing work of art and careful engineering to perfectly optimize the game's parameters, revealing what some have considered a horrifying Orwellian impression of the dystopian mechanics that undergird SimCity. And one might extend that to the natural laws that govern the growth and dynamics of real-life cities in urban design. The project was carried out with such robust testing and clout that outlets like Polygon and even the Museum of Modern Art covered the hellish metropolis in their own videos and articles about the project. It's the ultimate design I always tried to create as a youngster when I would play the original SimCity on Super Nintendo, and to be quite frank, I was envious of the amount of blood, sweat, and math that were poured into this project. I had to find out more. The original game files are available for download if you own SimCity 3000 and want to see it for yourself. So before I try to recreate it, what is Magnisanti? Let's break it down into its constituent components. Every city needs transportation. In Magnisanti, there are no roads, but rather a grid-like arrangement of rippling underground subway stations radiating out from the city center. There are no schools or hospitals, but only a never-ending string of the same library, funded with literally $0, and maximally funded police stations to achieve order, control, and maximum population density. Magnisantians are exceptionally stupid people, entirely uneducated, and no one survives past the age of 55. Zoning is baffling, but it makes sense, I guess. Every other block repeats the same alternating pattern of commercial, residential, and industrial zones, optimized to ensure there's little pollution and lots of people. Despite the lack of roads and cars, the paid parking industry is still booming, and every single commercial square in the city is inhabited by a large 2x2 parking garage, situated between 10 other parking garages, all of which lead to nowhere, no streets. But somehow, popular demand keeps calling for more of them, and business is booming. What else is there to say? It's basically Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. The city has $6 billion, or simoleons, if you're really trying to sound cultured, and it took 50,000 years to complete it. But one can only imagine that for Urbz, it took much longer to puzzle out exactly how to engineer the foundation of this monstrosity. So, after much doo-doo flinging and overly involved analysis, I decided to see if I could use the famous design as a model for myself, and achieve the same or similar results in less than 50,000 years. What would my own personal version of hell look like? Forget everything you know. The year is 1900, and we'll be starting with coal power, one of the most advanced forms of energy production known to man. I didn't want to cheat myself in the money, so I decided to earn cash the old-fashioned way, by attracting people in, then taxing the heck out of them to keep evolving my city into its final form. The main question SimCity asks the player is this: where are you going to put all of your garbage? To which the only appropriate answer is yes. Of course, you need to pollute if you want to start generating money, but better somewhere else than over here. It was very nice in here. It wasn't long before our new city was zoned up and generating oodles of dollars every fiscal quarter. 10,000 simoleons. Cash. In surprisingly short order, it seemed that we had already maxed out our RCI meter, even after I had surrounded the city with pollution, giving it to other people. What was the meaning of this? So in response to tepid growth, I funded a campaign to remove funding from all the local libraries. Demand for the stupid libraries catalyzed a watershed moment, and residential demand soared once again. Thus, through the construction of libraries designed for our dumb population, we grew our numbers without raising our expenses. In my probing of the seamy underbelly of the formulas for the governing dynamics in SimCity, this was the first anomaly where I would say that things were seriously out of whack. If the government is an agent that desires only more taxpayers, no matter how stupid and unhappy they are, then this was the first area set in my sights. So the years passed. 1900, 2000, we seized the new millennium poised for growth. If I couldn't hit pay dirt immediately, I'd have to call upon everything I'd learned as a SimCity player to mold the dystopian utopia of my dreams. Pollution to the sides, keep the people in the middle, prevent them from escaping. Commercial zones blend the two in a continuous spectrum of urban hues. And so in every city, there's actually a tale of two cities. The first one that pollutes and taxes rampantly in order to fund the next generation, where you can afford cleaner, cheaper energy and build on the labors of the fathers. For me, this meant an outer city of roads, my first city, while I made inroads toward my own personal Magnisanti, starting with the subway tunnels that led to the urban center of my second city, containing a primary transit hub that would be the heart of our new metropolis. Like a cancerous parasite that ultimately takes on the likeness of its host, the new city reached outward and engulfed the outer-lying lowlands in an assertion of its dominance, bleeding the old city of taxes and population until the former was merely a shadow of its lofty towers. Rise, Magnisanti. Rise out of the ashes of your former shell and become everything you're supposed to be. After major development, I created a tapestry of zoning nearly identical to the original. Still, I was nowhere near 6 million population. Even with half the city zoned, we remained stuck at a paltry 100,000 pop, with half the storefronts opened, then immediately abandoned. We had to buff up those numbers or else die in the cradle. So after decades of collecting a few $100s a year, despite our mistakes, we managed to carve out subway connections to attract migrants from nearby towns and build up a strip of 3x3 dense industrial zones, opening the floodgates to growth. A watershed moment where our population doubled to 200K. And then the dam burst. After the explosion of the power plants, we ousted the cadres of established families that had been hoarding up all the land. I'm not kidding you. After massive blackouts and an exodus, what followed was the Great Migration into New Magnisanti. A baby boom. By blowing up our power plants, we flexed on nearby towns that we were not afraid of pain, leading kindred spirits their way into our borders to be fruitful and multiply. Memorizing this zoning pattern took forever, but it became my mantra in tirelessly planning the city as de facto, immortal emperor mayor forever through the next 3 centuries. We passed 500,000 and beyond, but with almost the entire city zoned, we remained stuck at only 600,000 or 700,000. What was holding us back from our full potential? There's no I in team, but there is an I in city. I had forgotten what was the most important, that my people didn't actually matter. The city was actually losing money every year in my efforts to lay that foundation. I came close to quitting here. To be fair, I had actually come very close to recreating the physical zones, identical to the original Magnisanti, but there was still more work to do. We raised taxes and passed 1 million population. I don't know Emperor V. Omnica, but I do know this. That man should be invited into Mensa. For 600 years, we watched the population grow, removing one obstacle at a time that prevented our people from reproducing and filling up that hopeful metropolis, interlacing citywide law enforcement-themed Venn diagram composed of the radii of each of my police headquarters, completely dismantling crime, hundreds of post-apocalyptic libraries filled with books that no one would ever read, but somehow kept a constant stream of migrants incoming, maxed out the transit funding, and even a subway and rail connection on literally every tile of the map, multiple neighbor agreements to fully utilize every square inch of real estate, sanitizing the water, building parks in the center. I had done literally every possible thing to make my city just as good, and yet I was a SimCity failure. But the underlying capital T truth is this. The greatest joy I get is probing that black box of underlying formulas that govern the growth and dynamics of a city. It's not about the result, but the story that got me there. That was when the fires began, and the free thinkers returned to Magnisanti to set that prison of a metropolis ablaze in an infernal welcome for the next generation. Something moving, something with errors, something that it's a joy to puzzle and ponder over for hours and hours. A major thanks to Clayton Ashley of Polygon and Emperor V. Omnica and the MoMA for inspiring this. I'll leave those links down below so you can go check them out. And thanks to my patrons. Well, thanks for watching. As always, I'm ambiguousamphibian. Until next time.